In this video, I'm going to discuss exercises related to the lesson controls, and for these exercises, I will be using Visual Studio IDE. So in my computer, I have already installed Visual Studio. Now you can see it is 2015 version. Let's open. Again, I'm using Community Edition of the IDE. Now we have launched Visual Studio IDE. Let's go to the exercises, and then I'm going to discuss the first one. As the first point, start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. Now here you have to go to File, New, Project. Then New Project dialog box appears, and now here you have to select the programming language. So let's select Visual Basic, and from here now we need to develop a Forms application. So you have to select Windows Forms application. Then here we have to specify a name for our project. For the time being, let's give the name as project 1, and now as the location, we want to select where we have to save our project. So let's use the browse button, and so if you go to the desktop, I have already created the folder called VB on the desktop. So let's save our project inside that folder, and now once you press the OK button, now the IDE is creating a project for us. We have to wait some time. Now you can see the form here. Okay. Then add the button to the form. Now from the toolbox we can go to the button control, and if you double click on that, you can get the button to the form. Change the name property of the button to btn1. So once we have selected the button, if you go to the properties window, in the properties window we can see the properties related to the button. So we are asked to change the name property of the button to btn1. So let's go to the name property. Okay, so we can change it to btn1. Okay. Now change the text property of the button to 1. So again, after selecting the button, we have to go to the properties window, and in the text property we can type 1. Now you can see the text on top of the button has changed. Again, change the back color property of the button to red. That is another property of the button. So we select the button and go to the properties window, and there back color property. So this one we can change it to red. Okay. So now change the size property of the button to 180. Size property. Now 100 means the width of the button, and 80 is the height of the button. So Once you select the button and go to the properties window, you can find a property called size. Okay, two values separated by a comma. First you have to specify the width of the button. Here we are asked to set it to 100, and height of the button we are asked to set it to 80. Okay, 180. Now you can see the size of the button has changed. Okay, then let's go to the next point. Change the location property of the button to 30, 80. The meaning of that one is the first value is the distance from the left margin of the form, and 80 is the value, the distance from the top margin to the button. Then I will explain it using the IDE. So here 30 and 80. Now if you go to the after selecting the button, you go to the properties window, and there we have a property called location. If we change this to 30, okay, if we change this value to 30, that means from the left margin of the form, the distance from here to here, okay, distance from here to here is 30 pixels. Now again we have to change this to 80. That means the distance from here to here is 80 pixels. Okay, likewise we can change the location property using the properties window. So change the text align property of the button to top left. The text, once you select the button, then we can go to the text align property. There top left, you can select this one, and now you can see the text on the button is on the top left corner of the button. Okay, change the font style and size parameters of the font property to Times New Roman, bold, and 14. So here now once you should have selected the button as usual. Then you go to the properties window, and if you look at the font property there, then once you click that, so you can see the font dialog. From here you have to select Times New Roman as we have been asked. Now here bold, and the font size is 14. Now you can see. So let's go to the next point. Copy and paste the button to add a new button to the form. Okay, so you can one thing is you can copy a particular control. Right click on this, then copy and paste. Now you can see a copy. Okay, if you look at the properties of our previous one, this is the previous button we had. There actually we had the name btn1, and now you know if you have several controls, the name property should be unique. Okay, so when we copy the control, now you see this one name that is different. By default it has been assigned button 1. So even though we have copied, the names of the two controls are different. Okay, and also the if you could see what happens when I copied, again the location property is different. Okay, little bit different, okay, usually in that way. But if you look at the other properties, for an example, the size property, width and height of these two controls, if you compare the width and height, they are the width of this particular button and width of this button, and height of this button and height of this button, if you compare those things, they are equal, okay. So now what about the font? Font and back color, those things are equal. Back color property in both of these buttons is red, and font, now you can see Times New Roman, bold, and size is 14 in both of them, okay. Likewise, once we have customized a particular control, then you can actually copy it and create copy and paste and create controls, okay. So in that way you can do. Then change the name property of the new button to btn2. So if you you want to select our new button, and then go to the name property. Now let's name is as btn2, okay. So now again change the text property of the new button to 2. Now here, after selecting our new button, so let's go to the text property, and there you can type 2 again. Then let's move to the next point. Change the location property of the new button to 140,80. Then you select the new button and go to the location property. Here 140, that means from the left margin to our button, okay, from the left margin of the form and to our button, the distance should be 140. Then after that, distance from top margin to our button is 80 pixels. Now we have set these values, okay. So select both buttons, then underline the text on the buttons using the effects parameter of the font property. One fancy thing you can do, okay, is now let's say we want to underline. Now we have two copies, no? Sometimes we may have 10 or 15 or copies, but if we want to underline the text, now rather than doing it one by one, there is a better way. So you first select one particular button, then while pressing the control key of the keyboard, you select the other. Now both of the buttons we have selected two controls. Then what happens if you move to the properties window? In the properties window, you will see the properties common to both of these controls. Now if you look at here, now you cannot see the name property, because name property is not common, it is unique and different to the two controls, okay. But if you look at the font other properties, back color property, that is common to both. Back color property is red, and so if you go to the font property, now if you change anything here, that the both of these controls will be affected. So what you are asked to do is to underline, and then you press OK. Now you can see underlines appear in both of these texts. Now click somewhere away, then you can see this, okay. Now let's go to the next point. The user should be able to toggle the visible property of the btn2 button by clicking the btn1 button. Now what do we understand by visible property? First of all, now let's look at that. So if you select this particular control and then go to the properties window, you can find a property called visible. Visible, as the name suggests, we feel that it's something about visibility. Now if you run our form, please wait. Okay, if you run our form, now you can see this particular button is visible on the form. Okay, we can make it invisible. How can we do that? So again, let's go to the design view. So you select the button and now visible property. So if you set this to false, even though in the design view you can see the button, then let's see what would happen if you run our application. Now on the form, in the running, when the program is running, you cannot see button on the form. Okay, in that way, that is the purpose of visible property. And by default, initially the properties are set to true. Okay, now let's keep it like this. Okay, as we had before, let's keep it like this, so both of the buttons are visible on the form. Okay, before further continuing, try to little bit change the size of the form. Okay, okay, now it okay, and then we are asked to the user should be able to toggle the visible property of the BTN2 button by clicking the BTN1 button. Okay, so by clicking BTN1 button, so we have to program this particular button. This is our BTN1. Okay, so we have to program this. Double click on that. Now cursor is blinking in between these two lines of code. Okay, so here, and actually dot click, that means whatever the code we write here will be executed when BTN1 button is clicked. Okay, that is the meaning. So first we are asked to toggle the visible property of BTN2. So BTN2, okay, so visible property. So to this visible property, let's use the not operator again. BTN2 dot visible. Okay, now what happens here? As I have shown from the properties window, if you select this particular control and go to the properties window, there visible property can hold either true or false values. That means it is a boolean value. Okay, so therefore if you go to here, what happens when this particular line of code is executed? What is going to happen? That means if the BTN2 dot visible, that means value of visible property is false, then it will be set to true. If it is true, then it will be set to false. Okay, likewise execution of this particular line of code will change the value to the other value. Okay, so now that means it toggles the visibility. So now let's see, if you run our application, and when I click on this button, now you can see it disappears. Okay, again if you click button, it appears. Click on this, disappears. Then if you click on this, again it appears. Okay, likewise by clicking on this button we can toggle the visibility of BTN2 button. Okay, now let's move to the next part. The user should be able to toggle the enabled property of the button 1 by clicking BTN1 by BTN1 button by clicking the BTN2 button. So now we have to program BTN2 button. Okay, so let's double click on this. Okay, again our cursor is blinking between two particular lines of code. Now if you look at this, it is about BTN2. Okay, and also here dot click, also here dot click. That means whatever the code we write here will be executed when BTN2 button is clicked. Okay, before we further discuss, let's see what do we understand by the enabled property. Now according to the question, we have to deal with the enabled property of the BTN1 button. So if you select the BTN1 button and go to the properties window, there let's yes, we can see a property called true. So sorry, for property called enabled. Now it is initially true. That means if you run our application, you can see here, you can click this button. No, that is means it is we are able to click this button. Okay, that means it is its enabled property is true. Okay, that is the idea. Now you select the button, and what happens if you set this enabled property to false. And now let's run our application and see. Then now you can see you can click, but button is not clicked. It is now disabled. This button is disabled. Even the color of the font you can see pale. Okay, so and also you cannot see this kind of green not blue line around this button. Okay, when you hover the mouse pointer. Okay, so that is the idea. Now our button is disabled. That means we have set the enabled property to false. Okay, so now again now let's set it to true, because in the initial run of the application we want to make it enabled. Okay, that is the other thing I want to emphasize. If you go to a particular control and using the properties window, if you change the values of the properties, okay, so those are the values those controls will get in the initial run. Now you can see button is enabled. Okay, so because initially we had set in the design view, we had set the value of the enabled property to true. Therefore in the initial run of our form the button is enabled. Okay, that's another thing. So now again let's move to what we are asked to do. Toggle the enabled property of the BTN1 button by clicking BTN2 button. That means BTN2 button, so we double click on this. So BTN1 enabled. We have to deal with enabled property of btn1, and there, in order to toggle, as in the previous case we use the not operator, then btn1 dot enabled. Okay, now you can see enabled property. If you look at the enabled property of this one, let's go to the enabled property. Yes, here. So if you since we have a long list of properties, so you can simply if you categorize by clicking this one, you can categorize the properties. Okay, now you can see if you click this one, properties are categorized into categorized under several titles: accessibility, appearance, behavior, data, design. Likewise, so if you click this one, as the tooltip says, we can arrange, we can order the properties in alphabetical order, so it makes us easier to find. Now enabled property, so it should be A B C D, A B C D E. Okay, here now you can see enabled property is also a boolean property. So now now if you look at this, if this is false, when we apply the not operator, it will become true. If this is true, it will become false. Likewise, by executing this particular line of code, it always toggles the value of enabled property. Now let's run and see the application. So if you, now this is working, no, it is enabled initially, but if you click this, now it is disabled. It is not working even if you click on it. Okay, it is not working. Now again if you click this, now it is enabled, it is working. Okay, likewise, now we can now in this video you could learn visible and enabled properties. Okay, now that is the end of question number 1. Okay, so now let's close our solution. Then let's move to the second question. So as the first point, we are asked to start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So let's go to File, New, Project. Here you have to select Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application. Now since this is our second question, let's give the name as project 2. You could have given any name as you wish. Okay, so here also we use the same folder to save our work, the folder where we saved our previous project. Now you can see the previous project here, project 1. Now we are going to save this particular project also inside this folder. Now once you press OK button, it takes some time, and now you can see the form. Okay, so let's go to the next point, add a checkbox to the form. So if you go to the toolbox, if you shrink this, now you can see the categories. So under command controls, you can find the checkbox control. So if you double click, one thing is you can double click on this and get a checkbox to your form, or else you can drag and drop. Anyway, I double click on this and add the checkbox to the form. So now now let's go to the next point, change the name property of the checkbox to CB test. So we select the checkbox and then go to the name property and CB test. Okay, so again if you move to the next point, change the text property of the checkbox to test. We have to select the checkbox. Then if you move to the text property, there we have to type test. Okay, now again add the button to the form. We have added the button to the form. Okay, change the name property of the button to btn test. Name property of the button to btn test. Then again change the text property of the button to test. You select the button and after that you move to the text property. There you have to set test. Okay, now you can see this. It is checked or it is not checked. Text should be displayed in a message box when the button is clicked, depending on whether the checkbox is checked or not checked. Okay, so now if you select the checkbox and go to the properties window, there is a property called check state. There we can have three values: unchecked, checked, or indeterminate. Okay, unchecked, checked, or indeterminate. Three values are there. Now initially it is unchecked, so if you run our application, you can see it is not checked, it is unchecked. Okay, now what we are asked to do in the exercise, it is checked or it is not checked. Text should be displayed in a message box when the button is clicked. So we have to program the button. So first um, let's double click on the button. Now cursor is blinking in between these two lines of code, and now here you can see btn test is the name of the button, and dot click, that means what should happen when we click the button. Whatever the code we write here will be executed when we click the button. Okay, so now we have to use conditional logic. So if then what is the name? Actually, name of our checkbox is cb test dot check state property. Okay, so check state property, then that one, if check state property is checked, that means if the check state property is checked, okay, then what should we do? And the meaning of this one is if the checkbox is checked. Okay, understood? So if the checkbox is checked, now what should we do? In a message box you should display it is checked. Okay, then if it is checked. Then after that, else if cb test dot check state dot check dot uncheck. Okay, then what should we do? So since there are three stages, checked, unchecked and indeterminate, here actually I have used else if without using simply else part only. I have included this conditional part as well. That is because there are not only two stages, there are three stages: checked, unchecked and indeterminate. So it's so therefore we have to put else if part, message box dot show it is not checked. Okay, it is not checked. Now that means if the checkbox is checked, then we have to, in the message box we have to display it is checked. Otherwise we have to check this particular condition. If the checkbox is unchecked, then we have to display it is not checked. Now if you run the application, it is not checked. Okay, now you can see this is not checked. Okay, if you put tick here, it is checked. Okay, likewise you can see this. That is the end of question number 2 as well. Okay, now therefore let's close this solution. Now let's move to question number 3. Start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. Now let's go to File, New Project. Okay, so here you have to select Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application, and since this is our question number 3, I put project 3. Okay, let's save our work in the same folder we were saving our previous projects. Now you can see the folders of our previous 2 projects, and this is our project number 3. Then let's click OK button, and now let's move to the next question. No, not the next question, next point, sorry. Add a combo box to the form, and add a combo box to the form. So now we have added the combo box to the form. So change the name property of the combo box to CMB numbers. Now we select, once we have selected the combo box, we go to the properties window, and its name property we can change it to CMB numbers. Okay, add these items to the combo box 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, now here once we have selected the combo box, under properties you can see a property called items there. If you click the button with 3 dots, you have this one, string collection editor. There we can add the items that should appear on the combo box. So 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, likewise we can now actually I have added 5 items. So if you click OK, and now let's run our application. In this combo box, now you can see initially nothing is selected, so you can select any one out of these five elements. You can select anyone as you wish. Okay, that is a combo box. You are already familiar with combo box. Okay, so now let's move to the next point. Add the button to the form. Now I am going to add a button to the form. Okay, let's adjust the form like this. Change the name property of the button to BTN display. Select the button and then go to the properties window. So the name property, let's change it to BTN display and then press enter. Okay. Initially the text on the button should be empty. Okay, initially the text on the button should be empty. So if you see, once you have selected the button, if you go to the text property, then you can see button 1. This is the text you actually this is the text you see on top of the button. If you delete this one and then press enter, now nothing is here. The text property is empty and you cannot see anything on top of the button. Okay, so now let's go to the next point. The selected item of the combo box should be displayed on the button when the button is clicked. Okay, so button is clicked, therefore we have to program the button. Now double click on the button and cursor is blinking between two lines of code that is relevant to the button. And so here you can see the name of the button, BTN display, and here you can see dot click. That means whatever the code we write inside these two lines, whatever the code we write here will be executed when we click on the button. Okay, so the selected item of the combo box should be displayed on the button when the button is clicked. That means the text on the button, btn display dot text. Okay, this is how we access text on the button. And now to this we have to access CMB numbers, that is the name of our combo box. Okay, so combo box, then selected item. Now you press enter. Okay, selected, then selected item from the combo box will be assigned to the text property of our button. Okay, now you run the application and see. Now if you click this, combo box is empty, nothing will be displayed on our button. So if you click this, you will see 1. If you click this, you will see 4. If you click 5, if you select 5 here, you will see 5 here. Okay, if you select 3 and click this, you will see 3. Okay, likewise you can deal with a combo box. Okay, that is the end of our question number 3. So now let's close the solution. Then we move to question number 4. Start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. We go to File, New, Project. Here Visual basic, and now Windows Forms application. This is our question number 4. Therefore, project, let's name it as project 4. Okay. After that, we use the same folder we were used to save our previous answers. Okay. Now we select this one, and then once we press OK, again we have the form as usual. Then add a label to the form. We add a label to the form. Yes. Okay. Change the name property of the label to LB test. You select the label and then go to the name property. There, let's put it LB test. Okay. Change the text property of the label to computing. Now you select the label and go to the text property. Now this one, computing. Yes. Now text property of a label means what you see here. Now see here, text property, you can see computing here. Okay. Then again add a button to the form. So we add a button to the form. Okay. The text of the label should convert to uppercase when the button is clicked. Now button is clicked, so we have to program the button. Let's double click on the button, and now our cursor is blinking between these two lines of code as usual. This is the name of the button, and dot click means whatever the code we write here will be executed when we click the button. Okay, so now we have to access the text on the label, and to this one lb test dot text dot to upper. That means you have to invoke lb test dot text to upper. Then this will be changed. The text of the label will be changed to its uppercase letters, and then that will be assigned to the text property. Okay, so again try to understand this. We get the text on the label, and then by invoking this we convert this text to uppercase, and then that particular text will be assigned to the text property of the label. Now let's run and see our application. So here you can see text of the label change to uppercase. Okay. Now that is the end of our question number 4. Okay, now let's close the solution. Then we move to the question number 5. Start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. We go to File, New, Project, Visual Basic Windows Forms application, and now it is our project 5. Here we use the same folder. we were using. Okay, so here, and then after that we click OK button. Now you can see the form. Okay, so now let's go to the next point. Add the list box to the form. Okay, add the list box to the form. So we add the list box to our form. Okay, so from under command controls you will see list box control. Double click on that and then you can get a list box. Change the name property of the list box to LTB test. You select the list box and then go to the properties window. Here LTB test, LTB test. Okay, now you can see the name of the list box here, LTB test. Okay, add these items to the list box. So if you once you have selected the list box and then go to the properties window. Okay, go to the properties window. There you can see a property called items. Now here we can add items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R. Okay, in this way we have added 6 items to the list box. Once you press OK, now you can see these items have been added. So if you run our application, then you can see actually these 6 items. So you can select any of the items. Add a button to the form. So let's add the button to the form. The index of the selected item of the list box should be displayed in a message box when the button is clicked. So we have to program the button. Double click on the button and then as usual the cursor is blinking between 2 lines of code, and here you can see the name of the button and also here dot click. That means whatever the code we write here will be executed when the button is clicked. So now in the message box, you have to display display the selected index of the selected item, selected index. Let's put it like this and I will explain what is the meaning of selected index. So now here if you run our application, you will see when you click the button it displays -1. That means if you look at this, we have not selected any element from this list box. Therefore, if you click this, the index, selected index property is -1 for this list box. Selected index property is -1 if we have not selected anything. So if you select this one, it is 0. If you select this one, it is 1. This one it is 2. This one it is 3. Okay. This one it is 4. This one it is 5. Okay. Likewise, index means if you have items, we number them starting from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we had many items, 5, 6, 7, 8. Likewise, we number the items starting from 0. Okay. That is the meaning of the index of a particular item. So for an example, the index of this particular item is 5. Index of this particular item is 0. Okay. Now that is the end of question number 5 too. And now let's close our solution and let's move to the next question. Start question number 6. Okay, start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So we go to file, then new project. Here we have to select Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application, and this is our question number 6. Therefore here we put project 6. Okay, now we use the same folder to save our work, save our project. Okay, so and after we click OK button. Now let's move to the question. Next point, add the radio button to the form. Okay, so we add the radio button to the form. Change the name property of the radio button to RB test. So we have to first select the radio button and go to the name property. Here we use RB test. Okay, that is the name property. Then change the text property of the radio button to test. Now again we select the radio button, and here if you go to the text property, we type test. Okay, now here you can see test. Okay, if you change the text property, whatever you see here is the text property. Okay, then again we are asked to add a button to the form. So we double click on this one and add the button to the form. Check test should be displayed in a message box if the radio button is checked when the button is clicked. Okay, so when the button is clicked and if the radio button is checked, then the text check should be displayed in a message box. So we have to program the button. So now as usual, cursor is blinking in between two lines of code, and here you can see button 1, that is the name of our button, and here dot click. Therefore whatever the code we write inside these two lines of code will be executed when we click the button. So now here we have to now use conditional logic. If the name of the radio button is RB test, we access the checked property. Okay, if the checked property is true, that means if the user has checked the radio button, then what should you do? In a message box we have to display the text checked. Okay, checked should be displayed. Now you can see here, check text should be displayed in a message box if the radio button is checked when the button is clicked. Now you can see, if you run our application, the checked property is, you can see here, checked in a message box, okay, because this radio button is checked. Okay, so if you select the radio button and then go to its properties, then let's set it to false. Okay, now you can see, once we have set we selected the radio button and then go to its properties, and checked property we have set it to false. That means, as I have explained, when we run our application, initially the values we have set using the properties window will be available in the initial run of the application. So if you run this now, you can see checked property is false here. Okay, now actually if we click the button, nothing is displayed. Okay, because we only when if we click on the radio button, we check the radio button, then in a message box checked the text checked will be displayed. Okay, so in that way now you can see for a radio button, if you look at the checked property, it is either true or false. Okay, that is also a Boolean value. Now that is the end of our question number 6. Therefore, let's close our solution. Again, then we move to the question number 7. Okay, first point, start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So we go to here, file, new project. Then here we have to select Visual Basic Windows Forms application, and here project 7. And now if you select this, we use the same folder we were working to save this project as well, project number 7. Okay, our project number 7, then we click OK button. Okay, now let's move to the next point, add the text box to the form. Change the name property of the text box to txt name. So we select the text box and go to the properties window. From there we change the name property to txt name. Okay, then add the label to the form. So we add the label to the form. Change the text property of the label to name. Okay, then we have to select the label and go to its text property. There we type name. Adjust the locations of the label and the text box such that the label describes the content of the text box. Now as you have seen on the web and when you are using other applications, for text box we need a label. Okay, so you can have this one, okay, as the label. Okay, now for this text box, this is the label. That means the user is expected to type name in this text box. Simply it is like that. Okay, so now let's move to the next point. uh, okay, add the button to the form. Now we add a button to the form. Yes, we added the button to the form. Now the content of the text box should be displayed in a message box when the button is clicked. Okay, now we double click on the button in order to program it, and as usual cursor is blinking in between these two lines of code, and also this is the name of the button, and dot click means whatever the code we write here will be executed when we click on the button. So now here in a message box, okay, message box, we have to display in the message box we have to display the content of the text box. So our text box is txt name, that is the name of our text box, so we access the text property. Now let's see when we run our application. Here let's type, I am typing my name. Okay, okay, now you can see whatever the text you have written inside the text box is displayed in a message box. Okay, so now we that is the end of question number 7 as well. Therefore let's go to file and close solution. Then let's move to the question number 8. So we have to go to file, new and project. There we have, here we have to select Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application, and here project number 8, no, project number 8. Okay, now here if we use the same folder to save this project as well, then you click the OK button. Now that was the first point. I have opened Windows Forms application project. Add the group box to the form. Okay, add the group box to the form. Under containers category, we can see group box control. So double click on that, and you can get the group box to the form. Change the name property of the group box to GB name. So we move to the, you select the group box and go to the name property here, GB name. Okay, change the text property of the group box to name. Now you select the group box and then go to the text property. There we can put name. That means the whatever you write as the text property will be displayed as the label of our group box. Okay, then add two text boxes to the group box. So we have to add two text boxes to the group box. So now one thing, then another. Label the two text boxes as first name and last name. So here we add a label, this one. Then once we have selected the label, then we go to text property. There we put first name. Again we add a label. Once you have selected the label, then we put last name. Okay, so we have last name. Okay, so now I hope you feel the purpose of a group box. So in this way we can group controls into into boxes, okay, and give it a label. So first name and last name, here actually we are going to put the controls related to the name. So label of the group box I have given it as name. Okay, now we go to the next point, add the button to the form. So we add a button to the form. To the form we have to add a button. Okay, so not to the group box. So in order to add the button to the form, we have to first select the form. Then after that, if you double click on button, a button will appear on our form. Okay, let's adjust the form little bit so that it looks like this. Okay, and then the user should be able to toggle the enabled property of the group box by clicking the button. Now we have to program the button. As usual, the cursor is blinking between these two lines of code. Button 1 is the name of the button, and dot click means whatever the code we write here will be executed when we click on the button. So here we have to toggle the enabled property of the group box. So you are familiar with this toggling group box name dot enabled property. So not group box name dot enabled. Okay, then what we do, you have already I have already discussed, enable property is a boolean property. So enabled property, if it is true, it will be set to false. If it is false, if it will be set to true. Okay, when we execute this particular line of code. Now then what happens if you run our application? Now here now initially we can put yes, we can put something. Likewise, we can put something on the text boxes. But what happens when we click the button? Then what has happened? The entire group box is disabled. That means we have set the enabled property to false. Now you can see all the controls available inside that group box also now have become disabled. Okay, so that is one particular purpose of having grouped your controls into several group boxes when you design graphical user interfaces. Okay, so this kind of things, otherwise we have to disable one control by one. There are 4 controls we have included inside name group box. So if we do not have a group box, we have to we have to disable these 4 properties one by one. Okay, so actually now you understand the importance of group boxes. Now we can toggle now, so you can again it is enabled, again disabled, again enabled. Okay, likewise when you click the button 1, you can do that. So okay, so that toggling is performed by execution of this particular line of code. Now that is the end of question number 8 as well. So now let's close the solution, and now we have to go to question number 9. Start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So we go to File, New Project, here Visual Basic Windows Forms application, and here we have to put project number 9. So in this folder we select the same folder we were saving our previous projects. Now after that let's click OK button. Okay, now we move to the next point. At the panel to the form. Panel is also available under containers category in the toolbox. Okay, so panel means actually it is something like a group box without without a label. Okay, panel is something like that. Okay, so now change the name property of the panel to PNL test. So we select the panel and go to the name property. So here PNL test. Change the border style property of the panel to fixed single. Now we have added the panel, no? So let's run our application and see. Now we cannot see anything on our form. Okay, we cannot see, but we have actually added the panel. The reason is for our panel we have not set a border. So in order to do that we are asked in this point to change the border style property of the panel to fixed single. So we select the panel and then go to the border style property. Border style property, we set it in, it was null. Okay, now we are going to set it to it was none. That is why we could not see any border around our panel, and therefore panel was not visible at the running view. So here we set it to fixed single, and now when we run our application, now you can see the border around the panel. Okay, again we move here at the button to the form. Under command controls we can see the button. So now here at the button to the form, the background color of the panel should be set to black when the button is clicked. Therefore we have to program the button. Now as usual our cursor is blinking inside these 2 lines of code. Button 1 is the name of the button, and dot click means if you whatever the code we write here should be executed when the user clicks the button 1. Okay, that is the name now. So now we have to set the back color property. This is the name of our panel, PNL test. So back color property, so to this one we assign color dot black. Okay, likewise now when we execute this particular line of code, black color will be assigned to the back color property of the panel. Black color will be assigned to the back color property of the panel when we click the button. So now let's see. Okay, likewise now you can see that now that is the end of our question number 9 as well, and that is the end of discussion on these exercises. So if you could gain anything to your life by watching this video, please subscribe the channel, and that is the end of this video, and thank you for watching.